folks, for Christ himself to come down to encourage me about the excavation of the Ark of the Covenant tells me that it's very important to God. The colors of the rainbow are rippling in all directions behind it.
Welcome back to Project Nihilist. In part 1, Ron Wyatt told us a few reasons why he abandoned the greatest archaeological discovery of all time. If you haven't seen part 1, it probably doesn't matter, but cue the music. In this part of the video, Ron's going to tell us why he was the only one able to see the Ark. Keep in mind that a ton of people believe Ron found the Ark of the Covenant, Noah's Ark, Jesus' crucifixion site, Sodom and Gomorrah, and Moses' Red Sea crossing. So what do you say we crash this crazy train into another ravine and pick up where we left off?
I know that he believed that he had to find a way into that chamber so he could bring those objects out. Then one day he came home and that changed. He didn't talk about that anymore. And it took him a couple of months before he would tell me that he knew that he was never going to bring the Ark out, that he would only bring the tables of stone out, or that they would be brought out one day.
In the first part, Ron had all these reasons that he left the Ark buried. It was hot. He wasn't worthy. He was paranoid about some doctor. And Jesus even stopped by on his way from South Africa to the New Jerusalem to say, God bless you, Ron. But come to find out that was all bullshit because
there are 4 angels that have the responsibility of looking after the Ark of the Covenant. All right? My 4th time I entered that chamber, everything was cleaned out. All of the furnishings of the temple were in the proper positions that they were to be in, and except there was no curtain between the holy and the most holy place.
Here's a photo of what Ron saw underground, and as you can see, there's no curtain between the holy and the holiest of holies.
And there's a reason for that.
Ron doesn't tell us the reason the curtain was missing. I have a guess, but I want to know your guess in the comment section below.
But anyway, when I walked in, there were 4 angels standing in the chamber.
Oh, look, piggies.
And they looked just like people on the street. When I saw them, I was rather stunned, and I was going to ask, how did you get in here, or something to that effect. But I found I couldn't move or talk or nothing like that.
Laugh a little more.
So one of them instructed me to set up my video camera and aim it at the Ark of the Covenant. They went over, each took a corner of the mercy seat, lifted it up, and said,
This little piggy went to market. This little piggy stayed home.
Take the tables of stone out of the Ark of the Covenant. God wants everyone to see those.
Let's have a big laugh. It's nothing to laugh about.
Where do we begin? The mercy seat is the lid of the covenant, and the tables he's talking about are the tablets that the 10 Commandments were written on, which Moses smashed the first set, and maybe the second set was put in there too, with an empty pot of manna and Aaron's budding rod. But what's awesome is that Ron caught all this on video camera.
So I went over and I took it out. I wasn't able to move until he told me to do these things. And so they put the lid back on, or the mercy seat back on. I stood there with the tables of stone. I didn't know what to do with them. The angel came and took them and put them on a shelf in the side of the chamber there.
We found it.
Shelf ex machina makes no sense, and follow me for a second. The Ark was missing for 2,600 years. Other places claim to have it, although there's a catch-22. Nobody's allowed to look at it. And for some reason, angels handed Ron the tablets of the 10 Commandments and decided to put them on a shelf where they're exposed to the elements rather than keeping them in the safe box where they were just a couple minutes earlier.
Behind the Ark of the Covenant, the whole wall is the most beautiful crystal I have ever, I couldn't even imagine it.
Oh, yeah. I'm looking for those shrooms.
The colors of the rainbow are rippling in all directions behind it.
Drugs are bad. You shouldn't do drugs. Okay.
Ron's about to go off on a little rant, and I took notes because I had a hard time following along.
I'm so lonesome all the time.
I mean, it is mind-boggling, and I know that God, it's going to be there. I was told, and specifically what law, but people aren't ready to hear that yet. Damn.
Ron was given a super secret handshake law that he's not allowed to tell anybody about.
Men are working on a religious law that will require you and me to break God's 10 Commandments.
Man is working on a religious law that will require us to break the 10 Commandments.
Damn. When that law is passed, is when the tables of stone are to be put on public display, and people are to be made aware that God requires us to keep those 10 Commandments, all right?
In a weird way, I had to sort of just free myself up to believe that it was okay to be stupid or dumb.
When that law passes, Ron will display the set of stones that he found with the rules on them that we already know, with instructions we better follow these rules.
And that's when it will be shown. Now, I went to my hotel, I looked in the viewfinder, played back my video to make sure I had it.
I haven't edited anything out. Ron just changed lanes again at 88 miles per hour without signaling or checking his blind spot.
And then it struck me, where am I going to keep this? Where can I keep it that it'll be safe? So I took it and I went back in the chamber, and I mumbled something. I meant to say, I don't know where I can keep this safe. The angel took it and laid it on the tables of stone. So I have no access to the video of that until they're ready. Until they're ready. Every time I'm here, I come and check, folks, to see if I can do it.
Maybe it's just me, but it seems super convenient that Ron found a place to hide the tape that not even he can find the damn thing. Folks, one day Jesus will let me dig it up out of the hole where I buried it.
Right. I suspect strongly that these laws were probably already formulated.
So you have access to that area now without having to go through the excavation site?
I don't have to go through the entrance, the original entrance, where I found my way in 1982.
And the room originally had very limited ceiling clearance, so there was a lot of debris that was
right.
removed.
When I first found it, I wouldn't have even gone in the chamber. Have you heard about the little Arab fellow that was helping me?
I shall call him Mini-Me.
Yeah. Has everybody heard about it? If you haven't, hold up your hand.
John.
All right. This young man, I'm a fairly good-sized fella. There's folks here that are bigger. But some of these chambers had little entrances, and so I would make a hole big enough for him to get in. He'd crawl in, I'd hand him the light, and he'd shine it around in the corners and on the floor and the ceiling. I'd stick my head in and decide whether I wanted to make a hole big enough for me to get in. And so this particular one, we had made a hole big enough for him to get in. And by the way, it was the only chamber that had a stalactite hanging down over the entrance hole.
What's that?
Now, I don't know if that was significant or, but that's true. I snapped that off and I have it.
Great Scott!
I was over there on ronwyatt.com, and I came across this thing written by Mary Nell about the Ark of the Covenant. And she says, there are many claims being made today about the location of the Ark of the Covenant, and the purpose of this site is to give you an opportunity to hear Ron Wyatt's story as he told it to and is written down by his wife. We could not provide conclusive evidence of his claims, and we only ask you consider carefully what you are about to read and withhold your final judgment until you can see conclusive evidence.
Who's there?
You know, close your eyes and cross your fingers and wish really hard until you die and can't ask any more questions, and they get to chalk one up to the winning team.
But anyway, when he crawled in there, I was starting to hand him the flashlight, and he come tearing out of there totally terrified. What you would call mindless terror. And he said, "What's in there? What's in there? I'm not going back in there."
What is this?
And I said, "Well, what did you see?" And he said, "I didn't see anything, but I'm not going back in there."
I'm so sorry.
Well, he had been in tighter places and all of this. So that told me if that wasn't the chamber, it was the direction. So I made the hole bigger, crawled in, and it was full of rocks, up to within about 18 inches of a rough ceiling, similar to this one. And so I started looking down between the rocks, the cracks and crevices, and I saw 3 places where it reflected gold.
It would not be made out of gold.
And it was level, you know, they were 3 equally distant from where I was. So I started taking these rocks and putting them aside. I ended up with some behind my shoulders, holding them back. Turned out that it was the table of showbread.
Typically, one would shore up the hole using timbers and remove the debris, not climb in head first and bury themselves in an unstable catacomb. If anyone has a clue what the table of showbag is, let me know in the comments.
Turned out that it was the table of showbread. And so anyway, what I found was that they had put the furnishings in there, had put animal skins over them, and then boards of wood, and then covered all of that with stones to within about 18 inches of the ceiling.
That's where Mary Nell ended Ron's ravings. Let's forget all about the leather skins and the boards stacked with these hand-laid rocks and how ancient gold oxidized green and not yellow.
The first day I met him, he talked about the Ark of the Covenant. I know he thought about it every single day of his life. One day I woke up from sleep.
Congratulations.
And he was sitting there in bed watching me. And he said, "Do you remember what you just dreamed?" And I said, "No." It was early in the morning, and he said,
Tender love is blind.
"You were having a dream and you were talking."
And what does any of that have to do with archaeology, Mary Nell? I've been caught staring at my lovers too while they dream.
And this is exactly what he said to me. He said, "You were using your video voice." He teased me about it because I have such a strong southern drawl.
And I have a northern drawl, and guess what? That has absolutely nothing to do with archaeology and the Ark of the Covenant in the garden tomb where Jesus was crucified and his blood dripped down onto the ark and it turned into a rock. Ron was allowed to take the rock out, but he wasn't allowed to take the stones or his VHS tape.
And he said, "You said, this is the first angel, and this is the second angel."
This little pitty had roast beef. This little pitty had... ran out of pitties.
And he said, "You mumbled some other things." And
But check out Mary Nell right here. She keeps looking up and to the right. And according to psychologists, when people do this, they're making shit up. Every once in a while, she does glance to the left like she's remembering something that actually happened. But it's mostly she's looking up and to the right, up and to the right.
his whole life centered around that. And how can that be? Well, it's because he had no interest in anything other than the work that he believed God had called him to do. He didn't watch television. He would watch cartoons because he said they didn't put anything in his computer, as he liked to call it.
That just seems like a non sequitur because the only way I know to watch cartoons is to do it on a television. Maybe Mary Nell was confused with reading comic strips.
Ron could never produce any evidence of the Ark of the Covenant for anyone. And yes, he did try. He did try.
Yeah, that sounds like a huge problem to pretend that you did something that you never did. Who would do that?
But what he would say to people, he would say it at his meetings, he would say it anytime he talked to anyone, is he said, God has provided us enough evidence to show you that this is Noah's Ark, that this is the Red Sea crossing and where it happened, that this is Mount Sinai, that this is Sodom and Gomorrah, and these are the actual sulfur balls that rain down upon the city. But yet, I can't show you this, and I'm asking you only to hear what I have to say, and then watch and wait. There's no place like home.
Why would I ever want to live my life like that, where I close my eyes and click my heels and wish really, really hard that Ron Wyatt found the Ark of the Covenant, and we can take his word for it, even though, admittedly, there's no evidence. Thanks for stopping by. Do all that free shit. Like, subscribe, click the bell, and leave a comment telling me why I'm so wrong about your superhero, Ron Wyatt.